because that's what we're doing here. We're having some fun. You guys are a good audience. Our next comic, ladies and gentlemen, is a practicing attorney in Westlake, specializing in aviation. He was admitted to the California bar in 1977 and the Washington bar in 1982, and he hasn't passed a bar since. Ladies and gentlemen, John Moore!
I must admit, I feel a little out of place here with all these people talking about drugs. You know, I grew up in the 60s, but I was never part of the drug scene. And I was fascinated to see what the hippies were putting into their bodies to get high. And at one point, I found out they were combining LSD and the pill so they could take a trip without the kids. You know, my wife was shocked when I told her I wanted to do stand-up. She said, "I'm going to come watch you." And I said, "Don't do that, you'll cut out half my material." Actually, I made the mistake of letting her come to one of my shows. I was really kind of concerned about that. Had to tone it down a little bit. But it really wasn't as bad as I thought. In fact, it's really quite comfortable sleeping on the couch. You know, we've been married a long time, 36 years. You know, in our day, long, stable marriages were the norm, not like today. But one of my classmates just wrote his first book on how to have a happy and successful marriage, and it's selling very well. But the problem is half the proceeds are going to his ex-wife. Actually, I learned a long time ago that the way to keep your wife happy is to make sure you support her. We have a 50-50 relationship. We have a shared responsibility. I make the money and she spends it. You know, before that I had a girlfriend and I asked her if she'd still love me if I didn't have any money. She said, "Yes, I miss you very much." You know, the real reason we have a long marriage is because we're both Catholics. Any Catholics in here? Oh, couple, okay. You know, my Uncle Fred was a very devout Catholic, and he and his wife applied to join the leadership council of their church. And the priest told him, "Well, before you can join our group, you have to prove that you can accept discipline. So what you have to do is abstain from sex for 30 days. Come back in a month and tell me how you did." So he came back in a month. He said, "Well, how'd you do?" He said, "Well, we did pretty well, but we didn't quite make it." He said, "Really? So tell me what happened." He said, "Well, we made it 3 weeks, and it was really tough because my wife is a really good-looking woman. And one day she was wearing a really short skirt, and she bent over to pick up a can of peas, and I just took her right there." He said, "Well, I'm sorry, but you're not welcome in our group." He said, "Yeah, we're not welcome in the grocery store either." My wife is a level-headed one in our family. She's really good with raising kids. And when her oldest son was in high school, she insisted that he do sports all 3 seasons. She said, "It'll be great discipline, and the exercise will keep his mind off sex." I said, "Is that why you keep sending me to the gym?" Well, I go to the gym quite often now. And about a month ago, I was there, and this new guy came in. He was wearing women's underwear. And I said, "Man, how long have you been wearing women's panties?" He said, "Since my wife found these in my car." Now, I'm still very attracted to my wife, but like all men, anybody here find that men want sex a little more than women do? You know, that's been my experience. But my wife's a very reasonable person, and we can always talk things out and make an arrangement. And so, after quite a bit of discussion, she finally agreed that we can have sex twice a week, starting in the year 2050. Now, I know it's really a truism that men want a lot more sex than women. I was talking to my friend Charlie about that. He said, boy, you got that right. He said, I keep hearing the same excuses over and over again. I've got a headache. I just washed my hair. I'm your sister-in-law. I haven't told that one to my wife yet. Actually, for those of you who don't know me, I really am a practicing attorney, and I specialize in aviation transactions and lawsuits. I tell people that if the machine has wings, I can handle the transaction. If it only has one wing, I can handle the lawsuit. But before I was an attorney, I was a pilot. That was my real passion. And my mother was really frustrated with me, and one day she asked me if I'd marry an ugly girl if she owned an airplane. And I said, what kind of airplane? But does anybody remember the Malaysia Airlines plane that disappeared about 18 months ago? Yeah. Well, like everybody else, I was fascinated with that one. The airplane just disappearing without a trace. And all the pundits were saying we'd never see a bit of that airplane ever again. You may remember about 2 months ago, a piece of the left wing washed ashore on Réunion Island down in Indian Ocean near Madagascar. And I really wasn't surprised at all when that happened, because Réunion Island is a part of France, and the left wing's always showing up in France. Now, actually, my degree was in aerospace engineering, so I've also been very interested in the space program. And checking online, I found out that May 26th has been designated as Sally Ride Day, after the first female American astronaut. I told my friend about it. He told his wife, and he got in real trouble with her for that. Turns out he's dyslexic, and he thought it was Ride Sally Day. You know, that same website, I found there are a lot of really bizarre days celebrated. Check it out. You'll find out that December 8th is Take It in the Ear Day. I'm not even going to go there with that one. You know, my wife asked me 2 years ago, she thought I was a little too old to be doing stand-up, and I told her, no way. I said, I just turned 69, and I consider that a good omen. But, you know, I told that to a young guy at the office, and he didn't get it. He didn't know what a 69 is, and I had to explain it to him. Turned his sex life upside down. But you know, it was a different era when I grew up. You know, when I was in school, marijuana was still way underground. I didn't even smell marijuana until I was a senior in college. Now it's been legalized in Colorado and Washington. And all the high schools have signs out front that say, keep off the grass. We got 3 of our kids through college already, 1 more to go. He's in high school. We've been talking about colleges. I told him he ought to consider going to UCLA and becoming a Bruin. He said he'd rather go to Washington State and find a cougar. His second choice was to go to Oregon State and check out all the beavers. You know, the college football rivalries are really a lot of fun. You know, in our Rotary Club, about half of them are USC fans and half UCLA fans. And it gets kind of interesting every November around game day. But I've discovered that there's actually, every year there's a rash of unplanned pregnancies at UCLA during that football weekend. Turns out they don't allow any Trojans on campus. But we have our rivalries back east too. When I was at Princeton, the big rivalry was Princeton and Yale. You know, the Princeton Tigers and the Yale Bulldogs. You know, it was either a dog fight or a cat fight, depending on your point of view. But we had a bunch of Vassar girls that got interested in the rivalry. A lot of them all spent all their time at Yale, and a bunch of them spent all their time at Princeton. And I asked one of them one time why they preferred to come down to Princeton. She said, we'd rather be tigresses than bitches. I was going to tell you my favorite story about Princeton, but my wife said, don't you dare. So I think I better stop here. I'm John Morse. You've been fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, John Moore! Yes, thank you very much. Yes, that's right. There's jazz here tomorrow night, everybody. So coming out for the wonderful jazz. Tomorrow night, he's going to be all about. We're going to keep going because that's what we're here to do. We're here to do together.